podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How the podcast from Roker Report. And Sunderland are in the Premier League. I don't know what much else to say other than Sunderland are in the Premier League. We've just finished the game at Wembley. Me and Martin have jumped on to record. We are literally less than half an hour after the final whistle, and me and Martin are in a state of shock after the game. Martin, I don't know if you want to get going on that.
Well, complete disbelief, isn't it? And oh man, like there's so much to it, isn't there? Like the game itself, what it actually means, all of the years of League One football and all that sort of stuff, and that whole bloody recovery back to the Premier League. But Jesus, wet man, it's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It's incredibly difficult to actually articulate what we've just seen.
Exactly. That's what I didn't quite know how to introduce this podcast, because Sunderland are back in the Premier League, and that's the bottom line. And I've essentially been repeating it in my head since the final whistle that we are in. It came up in big letters at the bottom of the screen after the game. Sunderland are promoted to the Premier League. My lad was taking pictures of it just because it didn't seem quite right. You didn't want to quite believe it that it had happened, especially the way it happened.
I've been checking different websites just to make sure it's actually true. It's just like, oh man. The way it happened as well, Martin, and you know what I went back to as soon as it happened? We did the preview pod just before the game, which went out, this morning, the day of the game. And at the end of it, I said, we haven't mentioned Tommy Watson. And you said, he'll come on and he'll score the winner. I tell you, like, there's been so many stories in this playoff run, hasn't it, that you couldn't write, and that is the best of them all. Like, everything that's happened over the past 2 or 3 months with him, to come on and score a goal like that, but it was such a good, calm. It was a brilliant finish, like such a brilliant finish.
Absolutely ridiculous finish compared to everyone seemed to be losing their head when they got into a decent position, and he got half a sniff and just passed it around two players right into the corner. There was a view from behind him, which it was inch perfect. It was going wide, and he kind of bent, and it was bent right into the corner. Man.
I tell you what, like his value to Sunderland's gone up astronomically.
Yeah. Like you said, the stories are writing themselves. I mean, I don't think the commentators and the stats just kept rolling and rolling, because they were talking about this was the youngest side ever to play in a second tier playoff final. I think it was something like Rigg was the youngest player ever to play in the second tier playoff final, third youngest ever in any playoff final. That. You looked at Sheffield United squad and they compared them. Sheffield United squad was worth 68 million, or their starting 11 was worth 68 million. Ours was worth 8 million. The stories just kept writing themselves about this game. And look, we might go into the game. I'm not even sure, but we'll see where this takes us. But you just go on the game, and it's ridiculous that, and Labrie said it after the game in his comments, he said that this game represents how our season's been. And when you consider that we've had to battle for almost every single result this season, nothing's come easy. We haven't taken 2 and 3 goal leads. We haven't battered every side. We haven't had times in games where we can sit back and relax. And, like if you look at Sheffield United semi-final where the blew Bristol City away in over 2 legs, 6-0. We've never done that all season. Every game has been a slog that we've had. Well, basically it's been on a knife edge the majority of games this season. And to consider where we came out in the league based on 46 games being like that, and then 3 games in a playoffs being like that. And for a side as young as this, average age of about 23, like we said, youngest ever side to play in a second-tier playoff final, to get through games like that is ridiculous.
It is. It's, we've talked about it for a lot of the season, haven't we? We've talked about the mental strength of the whole club and the side and the calmness of Lebris and all that sort of stuff. But to do it when it mattered so much, and there was so much at stake and so much potentially to lose, it's testament to everything that's gone on at the club over the past, however long it's been since Kirill Dreyfus took over and Christian Speakman come in. And there's no other, I don't think there's any sort of bit of luck in the fact that in the Coventry game in the semi and in this game today, the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour of the game, we've looked stronger. We've looked more energetic. We've got late winners. We've, took control of the game. And, you just have to think back to a few weeks ago when, the vast majority of us were going, oh shit, we're not in the best of form because we took our foot off the gas. Can we flick that switch? And that just shows that was completely the right thing to do, because in each game we've got stronger as the closing stages have come. Coventry in the first game with my Ender's goal, and we just got like that last 20 minutes. We played really well, and I think they got tired. They were dead in the feet at some points.
Yeah, but Martin, you're absolutely right. But you're talking, or you're more talking about the physical side of it, as more than kind of maybe focusing on the mental side. Because to come from a place where, and if you think as fans, I was watching that, and I was preparing my lad, just for defeat, because it just looked like one of those days. But how many times have we been here with this side where they looked dead and buried sometimes? That you think times when Coventry were on top of us, Sheffield United at times they were bullying us, and to come mentally to turn the game around, to then get an advantage on the side that's been bullying you for so long during a game. You can't speak highly enough to come from a place where you just think it's not our day, nothing's going right, the 10-yard passes weren't going right, nothing seemingly was going right, we couldn't really create anything, we weren't getting in behind. And to have that belief that you can not only just get back into the game, but then you can go on to win it. I mean, I don't know whether that comes from the manager, or whether we've just, whether we focused on getting these characters into the squad that can do this sort of thing, because our whole season's been built on being mentally strong, that we've never been on top of sides for 90 minutes, but we've managed to get on top.
But it's a game plan, isn't it? And that's I think a lot of that mental side of it comes from Lebris, because he's uber confident in what he's doing, and he's so composed and he's so relaxed, and confident in what he's doing, what he's asking them to do. And I think they've obviously got confidence in him, so they know that if we go a goal down, we'll have to obviously stick in the game, and the chance will come. And you say all of that, and to lose 0-9 after 80 seconds or whatever it was, given that he's such a fundamental part of that strong mental attitude of the squad. Like, for us to lose him, I know we talked this morning about whether Mepham would come in. I'm like, oh, well, that's that decision made for him, isn't it? Because he ended up coming in after a minute. But to see 0-9 go off, and you're kind of going, it's not got off the best of starts, has it? But again, as we said, it was moments, and there's a mental side of it, but there's key moments in that game that flipped it for us. Patterson's save in the first half where 0-9 gets injured. 0-9's gone off, we could have been a goal down. I reckon that's the best save I've seen Patterson make.
Yeah.
Stunning save. And then he made that one in the second half with his feet where circling, letting the ball bounce. And if he doesn't make either of those, that's a completely different game. He came out and got crosses on a few occasions and really kind of dominated his box. And our win goal comes from a mistake. We were able to capitalise on it. And his subs he made, there were all these little bits that came together. And, ultimately we took our chances and they didn't. But like when you look at the stats, it kind of suggests a more even game in terms of us being on top than perhaps you kind of felt during the game, because after an hour, you kind of preparing yourself for defeat and going, well, it's not going to be our day. We haven't been good enough today. And all of a sudden it flips and we seize the opportunities that we've got. But man, I'm surprised in myself that I'm surprised that it happened, because as you say, we've kind of seen that mental strength and just that willingness and drive and determination to keep going. We've seen it all season, but you kind of go, we're going to run out of that happening, and we managed to do it.
Well, this is it. It's almost like you told your initial response was, well, this is the game plan, and you're absolutely right. But you keep thinking that they can't do that again. Surely they can't do that again. We've had 48 games. That was the 49th game where almost they've done that.
Yeah.
Where they've allowed the opposition to almost come onto them. Well, and be the better side, and then we've kind of flipped it, and like you said, we've just managed to we've in every game we've managed to get those big moments right.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because I actually thought we didn't do that as much today. I thought Sheffield United actually tried to let us do that. It was like we said, yes, it was kind of like that standoff bit where you go, no, you have the ball, no, you have the ball, and they were trying to let us have the ball. For the first hour, they were far better with the ball than we were. When they were able to counter, they looked in. Even the start of the second half, we had a lot of possession, came on to try to get an equaliser. But they looked so dangerous on the break, and they were trying to let us go forward, trying to suck us in so they could hit us. So it was a little bit different. I thought it was a different kind of test. And, I think when you look at the stats, we had more possession than them. We had more passes than them. We kind of dominated on those stats that we don't actually normally dominate on. So it was actually quite a different challenge for us. But I think it completely changed when you made those subs. Like, completely changed. And, again, going back to something we talked about, getting Lefebvre onto the ball. Like, even though Lefebvre was playing centrally to start with, he was anonymous. He couldn't get on the ball. Drop him back a little bit, let him pick the ball up. And all of a sudden, it's a different game. He's slotting passes around. He's on the ball. He's winning the ball. I can't wait. Obviously, his move becomes permanent now, doesn't it? Because we've gone up. And there's just so many bits out of that. It just means so much on so many different levels. But him being Sunderland player next season is going to be brilliant. I can't wait to watch him more.
It's like the cherry on the top of the icing on top of a big massive cake, isn't it?
Oh man,
the fair comment. But it was even that the simple things that we weren't getting right, and this again, it comes back to the psychological aspect of it, because we weren't getting even their goal. They took the lead after 20 odd minutes, and their goal just seemed like we were in disarray. Like Mepham looked completely confused on the edge of the box. And they clear it and break. And then Mepham ends up chasing back. There's 3 players chasing Harmer, and Lefebvre has to sprint all the way back for Campbell. But we looked so bad that we looked like almost confused about how we even attacked set pieces and things like that. And like this is what I'm saying, to go from a state where you're confused on where to be on an attacking set piece and getting those simple things wrong, to then still come out and win the game. I just don't know how they keep doing it.
Well, I guess you've been there before, haven't you? That's the thing. As a group of players, they've been in that situation a few times this season, and they've managed to turn it around. And, I think you've got to give credit to Sheffield United for that goal. I think, we made a bit of a mess of it. But I think Harmer did so well to actually find some pace to start with. But his ball in, the run that Campbell made, the finish of Campbell, I thought, that's one of those where you go, you've got to give credit to that, because, you play you take Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United out of the equation. I don't think any other Championship team scores that goal against you.
Yeah. I mean, it just showed the pace, because they looked stronger than us. They looked quicker than us. They were quicker to every ball. They looked more organised than us. And then on half hour, I thought it was all over. And
well, we talked about VAR, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I tell you, can I shock you? I've always loved VAR.
And I did nearly put that into the chat, but I was too scared about what might happen, because the ref, to be fair, went over to have a look, which I thought was a bit odd. I thought they were just going to give offside, and then he went over because I think Mike Dean had to explain that it was a, I don't know, whatever he said, type of offside where you had to go and have a look at, and he had a good long look at it. But in the commentaries, Don Goodman described it as a lifeline, and I tell you what, that was game over right there. It was simple as that. It was done if that was a goal.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But as we've said, this team kind of surprises, so you never know what might have happened, but it would have been incredibly hard to come back from 2-0 down, wouldn't it? Incredibly hard. And that, I know it didn't stand, but that goal for them, it kind of summed up the game at that point, because it was a bit of a scrappy bounce around going on in the box, but they just took a shot. They had a crack, and we would, and obviously fell for them. And fortunately for us, there was somebody standing slightly in front of Patterson's right eyelash or something, wasn't it?
Well, I think he was standing within a 10-yard radius where they thought, well, he's blocking the keeper from diving.
I think he was, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think he kind of blocked his view of the shot coming through. But again, if you don't have VAR in that circumstance, I don't think it gets given. I think
that's a goal in the Championship.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, we needed VAR at that point to kind of bail us out, because there's no linesman in the Championship given that as offside.
Nah,
especially if they're on the same side as Chris Wilder. There's absolutely no way, because even then, even though he was offside and it went to VAR, he was still talking to the fourth official. He was still in his ear about it.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So.
But that was a massive turning point, and I think we got a bit of energy from that, because you say that's for all intents and purposes that's game over if that stands. But I think we kind of took that as a big wake up call, didn't we? And I think we had a bit of a spell after that where we tried to control it a bit.
Well, we started. I mean, I'm just looking at what I kind of put down at half time, and it was Sheffield United the better side. They were stronger. They were more effective going forwards. We had less of the ball, but they looked more dangerous. We looked nervous. Simple passes were getting zipped into feet, and we were struggling to control it. We needed to try and bypass the midfield a bit and get forward a bit quicker. To be fair, Labrie had a word with him at half time, because we didn't look the same side as we looked in the first half when we came out for the second.
No, and he said after the game, he said it was a weird first half. And I think, for all we've given the Bruce a lot of credit for tactics and all that sort of stuff this season, I think Wilder got the better of him in the first half. I think we looked a bit kind of indifferent in terms of, it was almost like we were kind of caught in between one game plan and another. We couldn't quite figure out how to deal with him. They went two up front, which obviously should have created a bit more space in midfield for us. But again, I think Lefebvre struggled getting the ball. And I just think, that the formation, I know we kind of talked about yesterday, but playing Rig out there, Rig didn't kind of get into the game from a real attacking point of view. He didn't give us the width on that right-hand side. We were trying to get Mundle free, but obviously Mundle's fitness wasn't as sort of great as he wanted. And I think at half time, I was relatively happy going in only 1-0 down at half time, because I thought, well, at least he can kind of get them reorganised. Because one thing we have seen from the Bristol season, he will spot little things in the opposition and make little tweaks to try to rectify it. Even maybe after the Sheffield United goal, he swapped Ballard and Mepham around. Because when Mepham came on, he played on the left of the defence, and we swapped those around, and just little things like that. But second half, we came out and we looked a different side. And I think it was that thing where he's obviously given him a bit of a talking to, but also it's that realisation that there's 45 minutes here. This is it. The whole season's on the line. And there seemed to be a determination to kind of turn around, didn't there?
Yeah. And you mentioned the subs, and I think we've already mentioned the other moment, because actually 68 minutes I've got, it should have been all over once again. Ball over the top. Dennis Serkin lets the ball bounce twice. And I thought, I just made this, because I think I panicked my son, because I made the god awful noise when Dennis Serkin let the ball bounce twice.
I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know what he was thinking. I think he then flung himself to the ground trying to play for a free kick at the end of it all. And I just thought he slotted it in here. And Patterson looked like he'd been done. He was kind of on his way down.
He went the wrong way, didn't he?
Yeah. And he just hung out a foot. And he luckily, I mean, but I don't know why. I can't even remember who went through. I was in panic. But whoever went through, he had so much time.
Well, it was glad he could come on and sub, wasn't it?
I'll take your word for it. I was in panic mode by this time.
What's it called? It was one who scored in the semi. Brooks? Was it Brooks?
Yeah, that'll be right. That sounds right. But when Serkin let the ball bounce twice, I thought that's it. I thought game over, and Patterson made the save, and then we had to scramble it away after that. It was 3 minutes after that. I don't know, Labrie was probably going to make the changes regardless, but I imagine that chance potentially sped them up by a few minutes, because then Neil went off for Watson and Mundle went off for Isidore. I mean, we have to, Dan Neil, he's going to have one hell of a party. He probably doesn't care, but he didn't have the best of games, to be fair. But and I tell you what, that's a brave decision from Labrie to bring Dan Neil off in the middle of the park and drop Lefebvre back and bring Watson on as well, who was hardly really played.
But if I think obviously taking Dan Neil off is a massive call for him, captain. Not having the best of games, as you say. I think his passing was pretty poor. He was caught on the ball a number of times. But I think the overriding thing there was that he wanted to get 4-4-2 going on. He wanted to get a bit of width with Watson. He's brought Roberts on the right. So you've got a choice of bringing off Dan Neil, Joe Bellingham, or Enzo Lefebvre. You need to get Lefebvre more on the ball, which is part of the reason why you can't change the formation. So drop Lefebvre back. So it's a straight choice between Bellingham and Dan Neil. And whichever one you decide to bring off there, that's going to be a big call, isn't it? Yeah. It looks slightly big because Dan Neil's captain, but at that point of the game, I think Job was getting on the ball a bit, wasn't he? He was kind of starting to have a bit of an effect in midfield, and it was a brave decision, but absolutely the right one. And it's going to be so interesting. I know we're kind of skipping miles ahead here, but like next season in terms of Lefebvre, getting him on the ball, because he's got to get on the ball deep.
I'm refusing to talk about next season for a while.
No,
yeah,
for a long time,
because it's
for a long time. But we saw in that 20 minutes or however long it was, 30 minutes by the time we blew the final whistle, like how good and effective Lefebvre can be. And again, it was like we were saying yesterday, we just need to get him on the ball, and he can make all the difference. And he's starting to make things tick.
Well, I'm just reading. He had 16 touches in open play in the first half, and by the end of the second half, he'd had 48.
Yeah, well,
so it's just about getting him into the game. And then we'll go on to the moment where we equalised, Yeah, first time we played through the lines quickly, by my reckoning anyway. Lefebvre got it quickly through to Roberts, and that was a consequence of getting Lefebvre on the ball like we're talking about. And Roberts making an impact, but cutting inside as well, picking up positions where it was clear the manager told him just to get on the ball rather than hug the touchline. And then knocked it wide to Mayenda, who peeled off. What a great run, by the way. And one touch. And
beautiful run, beautiful touch, beautiful finish. Like, absolutely superb. And on his wrong foot as well, by the way. On his wrong foot, rifled in the top corner. And, again, we've seen him develop so much over the past 12 months, but particularly the last 4 or 5. He's really come on leaps and bounds, hasn't he? But like that move, again, getting the foot on the ball. Patrick Roberts, we talked again about him in the pod that we did before the game, and he hadn't been at his best in the 2 semi-final games. But throughout the course of the season, I have been a voice that has defended Roberts in terms of his ability to pick the ball up and knit play up. And, as you say, he came inside a lot. And, we were talking the other day about the Sheffield Wednesday semi-final a few years ago, where Roberts kind of did drift inside and come inside and try to pick up those positions. And he hasn't been doing it that much recently. He has kind of stayed out wide and provided the width. But he did it. As soon as he came on, he was kind of trying to drift in the middle of the park. And maybe that was to try to spring Lefebvre around the right or spring Hume around the right, whatever it was. But he made such a difference for us coming on. And, I think we've operated all season with a fairly thin squad. Today we had options off the bench, and the Briss used them really well.
Yeah. And look, we'll come into detail when we talk about it through, but then I think Hume's tackle on Diaz had an impact coming into the final stages of the game. And then 95th minute, Watson only had 5 touches in total after he came on. And it was Kiefer Moore as well who basically battered us, especially in that first half. And he just completely had a brain fart, completely just knocked the ball into space that we picked up on. And Watson, we've talked about it at the beginning. I mean, absolutely ridiculous to have that come on as sub. And he was asked about it after the game. After, I think they wanted rid of him because he swore straight away. He did a Megan Richards and dropped an F-bomb live on Sky straight away. So I don't think they wanted to talk to him for too long. But he said he's been pitching it. And I think you wonder if that's kind of part of it when managers think, yeah, well, look, he's up for it. He's up for this moment, and he threw him in, and to have that composure again. I don't know what it can't kind of describe it enough. How he took the ball forward, and we've seen players. I mean, I don't want to pick on players, but Max Power in the final, 40 yards over the bar when there's a pressure moment on, and all this sort of, all these things that we've seen where players are losing their head and haven't got composure, and he passes the ball into the corner of the net. What a moment.
Oh, brilliant. Unbelievably good finish. And look, without that goes to extra time, you still got a whole stretch of play ahead of you, haven't you? It's kind of not a moment that's going to lose you the game, but it's a moment that can win you the game. And for him to take that on, again, it was one of the few times that we actually got that turnover in play. I think Sheffield, it's interesting actually, because you have the impression Sheffield United being really good in possession. When you look at their pass accuracy, 72% compared to our 84%. So in terms of actually finding people with passes, we were more effective than they were. But I think they moved the ball around really well and handled the ball really well for certainly the first half and for some bits of the second half. But that was just a complete aberration for him, wasn't it? I don't know what he was thinking, tiredness. But, tiredness comes into it as well. Again, we're talking about us having a fully fit squad. I think there wasn't anybody, maybe Elise you might chuck in who was around there who wasn't involved, but we had a fully fit squad. Going in the last 15, 20 minutes, you could see that they were starting to flag. Hamer come off with Harmer came off with a cramp. It looked like cramp, didn't he?
Yeah.
So you kind of got that bit too, and you go, it's obviously you can't plan it all out to that sort of degree, but again, I'm kind of surprised it happened. When you think about it rationally, you go, of course that's happened. We've done this all season. We've been building up to it, but man, brilliant. And such again, I've criticised him, Tommy Watson, a few times, especially since his move came about. But all credit to him for coming off the bench and doing that. And who knows what his thoughts are now? Whether he'd change his mind about staying if he had the chance.
Well, we'll probably leave it there for today because this is just an initial reaction, and just we try to get our heads around it. Because I genuinely like to scream and shout, but I can't. my voice, I think, would actually just completely break down because I've been shouting that much during the game, celebrating with my lad, that my voice is on the way out. It's almost broken, and if I do scream and shout once more, I think it's gone for a couple of days. I think.
Unbelievable.
But Martin, Sunderland are back in the Premier League.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Honestly, man, I had tears rolling down my cheeks when they went up to collect the playoff trophy and stuff, man, because it's, fun.
You know what it is, Martin? We've been saying so long, and anybody listening to the On This Week pods, thank you very much for a start, but we've been saying so much when we've been going through the history of the club. We've been saying typical Sunderland when we've been going through things in a negative way, because this doesn't necessarily happen to us. We are often on the receiving end of these things. And when we go through the On This Week stories, it's, we got beaten the last minute, especially, we've been doing them for the end of May. And how many times have you gone through when you've been doing your little summaries and you've been saying there was a last minute goal here and we got beat here, we'll leave that there because we got beat here and that happened here. Or we got relegated because the other side's just passed it around for 15 minutes, or, that, it came off someone's backside. And when, it's always us on the receiving end. And this young team have flipped it, have made us think, actually, we're the side who comes out mentally stronger. Yeah, we might have not had the best of the game or whatever, but this team's mentally strong to say, no, we're not going to be on the receiving end of that. We're going to win this thing. No,
that's absolutely right. And, you go back to the Wycombe playoff as well. Sheffield Wednesday semi-finals, same thing. And, it's class, man. Like, there's just so much to it. Like, and we'll go into more of it tomorrow, won't we? But, like, it just, I think it, as I said in the podcast that we put out this morning, sliding doors moment for the club in terms of, the players that we can keep, even the staff that we can keep. If we hadn't gone up, Lebris would have been looked at by other clubs. Christian Speakman would be looked at by other clubs. I'm sure he will be. There might be investment things going on behind the scenes that depend on us going up. There's Lefay transfer that we've already mentioned. There's just so many bits that, you can kind of hopefully keep the vast majority of this squad together now and go on to see what they can achieve. And it's just and I'm so pleased for all the people that, like, behind the scenes at the club who have done so much, and all the fans who've travelled here, there and everywhere. Right. It's just, oh man, it's just class.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll leave it there for today because I think me and you are broken. And what time is it for you at the moment, Martin?
It was 3:15.
3:15. Well, I'll let you get some sleep, and I'm going to open some champagne to soothe my throat, I think.
There's not much chance of me sleeping, mate, I can tell you that. I'm going to put the match on again, I think.
Right. Well, we'll leave it there. And we will come back with a more detailed talk through it. And then obviously we're going to get it. We're going to review this again and again and again and again. And then we'll maybe talk about next season in a few weeks when we finish basking in these last minute goals. But Martin, thank you very much for staying up. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And thanks again, everyone, for listening. This isn't going to stop on Away the Podcast. We're obviously going to keep on going. We'll be talking about this every day, I think, during the summer until next season kicks off. But thank you again for listening all throughout this season, because this is the last fixture of the season. But we are going to keep on rolling, potentially every day, talking about this, certainly over the next couple of weeks at the very least. But keep looking out for the next one, because I'm sure it'll be dropping very soon. And Sunderland, I'll say it once again, are now a Premier League club. But from us, it's bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.